There are 2 moves to eliminate a narcissist from your life. Welcome to our podcast. Today, we have Elias Stasinos, who has successfully navigated a relationship with a narcissist and developed effective strategies to reclaim his life. Thank you for being here, Elias. When did you first realize you were dealing with a narcissist?
It took me a while to figure it out. I knew something was off, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I started researching abusive behaviors online, and that's when I came across information about narcissism. It was like a light bulb moment. Suddenly, so many confusing behaviors made sense. It was like dealing with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. One moment she'd be pleasant and seemingly repentant for abusing me, and the next she'd be manipulative and abusive. She was a master of bait and switch tactics. She'd provoke me, then play the victim when I reacted. It was extremely confusing. This narcissist was particularly challenging because she was both a covert and overt narcissist. She started with overt tactics, but when I resisted those, she later switched to covert narcissistic manipulation. She'd play the victim, use subtle tactics, and it became much harder to detect the abuse.
You mentioned that bait and switch is the narc's primary weapon. Can you explain what that means in the context of narcissistic behavior?
Certainly. The bait and switch tactic is a manipulative strategy that narcissists often use to control and confuse their victims. It's a 2-step process. First, the bait part. The narcissist strikes a conversation with you. The narc presents something appealing or positive to draw you in. This could be affection, a peace offering, a promise to change, or even just a normal, pleasant conversation. It's designed to lower your defenses and make you engage. Note the word lower your defense. Never lower your defenses with a narc. He will eat you for lunch. It is in those moments of comfort and relaxation that they will attack you. Then comes the switch. This takes 5 minutes to 5 hours, depending on how bad the last abuse was. So, once you've taken the bait and are engaged, lowering your guard, believing the narc is harmless now, the narcissist suddenly changes their behavior. They might become critical, start an argument, make demands, blame you for their problems, or bring up past grievances. This swift change catches you off guard and often leaves you confused and emotional. A common scenario might be the narcissist approaching you with a smile, saying something like, "Hey, I was thinking we could have a nice dinner together tonight." That's the bait. It seems pleasant and normal. You might agree, thinking things are improving. The narc changed. She realized that she is abusing me and wants to make up and apologize. But then, during dinner, they suddenly switch. They might start criticizing your cooking, bring up a past argument, or make unreasonable demands. You're caught off guard because you were expecting a nice evening and now you're dealing with conflict. To avoid falling for this tactic, the key is to be aware of the pattern and to maintain emotional distance. Remember that sudden niceness doesn't necessarily mean real change. When the narcissist approaches with something that seems positive, remind yourself that it might be bait. Remind yourself that the narc will never change. She will never understand you. She is not willing to hear your defenses to her accusations. The only thing the narc wants is to piss you off. Then he has control of you. So take a breath, relax, and leave as soon as the narc starts her accusations, demands, arguments, and fault-finding. Respond briefly and neutrally. Don't get drawn into extended conversations or emotional exchanges. If you do engage and they switch to negative behavior, disengage immediately. Leave the room, stop responding, or otherwise remove yourself from the situation. That is how you set the boundaries. Setting boundaries means that you immediately stop when the narc starts the abuse. Remember, the goal of this tactic is to keep you emotionally engaged and off balance. By refusing to play along, you're taking away the narc's power. The bait and switch tactic is one of the main reasons why it's so important to minimize contact and avoid getting drawn into conversations. Every interaction is an opportunity for the narcissist to deploy this kind of manipulation. If you engage, that is, if you try to respond, defend, or reason with the narc, you lost the game. You can never win with the narc in an argument. This is about dealing with an almost psychopathic level of manipulation that you have never encountered before. You are trapped by her persistence and clever manipulation tactics, combined with your initial ignorance about this type of psychopathic, monster-like personality.
So how did you start to turn things around?
In my case, here's how it went. In the beginning stages, I learned to not react to her explosive anger and abuse, which took away a lot of her power. If you don't learn how not to react, you need to leave the narc because years will pass, and she will keep you on the defensive where she has the advantage. You just need to be ready for the narc's bait and switch. Expect the switch part and you will be able not to react. So, my first move was implementing a minimal contact rule, even while living in the same house. I essentially went no contact inside the house. The second move was video recording all our interactions, especially the ones at the moment the narc became negative. You need to realize that the narc hates herself, and she hates you too. She is a negative person and she will never change, nor will ever understand your defenses and explanations. Don't try to explain anything to her. She is deaf, and she does not care what you say because you are nothing to her. You are a piece of furniture to her, someone to manipulate and abuse. You are her narc supply. To implement minimum contacts, I limited our interactions as much as possible. I wouldn't engage in unnecessary conversations or react to her provocations. I treated her more like a roommate than a partner. This removed the emotional fuel, the narcissistic supply she was seeking from our interactions. As soon as she would predictably begin to become abusive and negative, I would smile, get up, and leave the scene. I would leave without arguing or an explanation, and immediately when she has begun to abuse me. Narcs are so single-minded thinking how to get you upset. When you get upset, the narc feels good because the narc feels that she has power over you. In the video recordings, I used 2 cell phones when I had them available to video record each of our interactions. It is perfectly legal because, in my home, there's no expectation of privacy. I didn't publish these recordings. I kept them as evidence for my protection. She hated me recording the interactions, but, interestingly, she became very nice in front of the camera. It completely changed the dynamic. When she realized I wasn't available for manipulation because I kept a distance and that any abusive behavior would be video recorded, it took away all her power. These 2 moves, minimal contact and recording interactions, were the coup de grace for the narcissist in my life. To my surprise, she willingly left my house much faster than I expected. I thought she would never leave me alone, but these strategies effectively eliminated her from my life.
Can you explain what you mean by gray rock?
Gray rock is a technique where you make yourself as uninteresting and unresponsive as possible to the narcissist. You become like a gray rock, dull and unengaging. This removes the emotional fuel they're seeking from interactions with you. Note, however, that you need to set the boundaries.
That's interesting. What other strategies did you find effective?
A crucial understanding was to stop trying to explain anything to her. No matter how I tried to explain my behavior, like reacting to her criticisms or trying to make her understand that her behavior was abusive, it wouldn't work. She doesn't care, doesn't listen, doesn't understand, or pretends not to understand.
That must have been frustrating. How did you handle that?
I realize that she actually loves it when you try to explain yourself or point out her abusive behavior. When that happens, she wins because she wants to engage you. That's her most potent weapon, drawing you into a conversation and then abusing you.
So how did you counter that tactic?
You need to be very brief in your responses. Yes, no, etc., and then leave. You will not win with her because once she engages you in a conversation, you'll lose. She has a bunch of tricks to get you upset, and if you get upset, you're off balance, and she has control over you. So, avoid any type of conversation with her.
It sounds like setting firm boundaries was crucial.
Absolutely. You need to leave each time you detect manipulation or abuse. For example, as soon as she starts demeaning you, gaslighting you, being rude, or invalidating you, just get up and leave. Better yet, don't sit down with her in the first place. It's futile. That is how you set the boundaries in this weird relationship. Stop the moment you detect abuse and go away from the narc.
Earlier, you mentioned two key moves: minimal contact and recording interactions. Can you elaborate on how you implemented minimal contact?
Minimizing contact means that you act politely, say good morning, etc. But then you withdraw to your hobbies, your garden, the cafe with your friends, or your room away from her. If you can, stop sleeping in the same room and stop eating together too. Otherwise, just act normal. Have your phone handy, and when she knocks on your door trying to bait you with an issue that has to be discussed, or she just approaches you, turn on the video recording. She will protest, but do it anyway, or try to do it secretly if you can. The most important thing to know is that the narcissist is waiting for you with a bait and switch tactic. Don't take the bait, regardless of how nice it may seem. If she succeeds in drawing you in a conversation, leave as soon as she turns negative. If you cannot leave, try not to get upset. Do not react even if you get mad. Just take a few breaths and relax. The second important thing to remember is that the narcissist will never understand you. Stop trying to explain or defend yourself. Give up any hope that the narc will understand you or she will change. She will never change. Then, teach the narc a lesson. Leave as soon as an abusive behavior starts. That teaches the narcissist that consequences occur when she starts the abuse. However, the narc will never stop abusing you anyway. Abuse is the narc's job. Don't do anything with the narcissist. Find excuses. I'm not hungry, I'm tired, I need to do something else. I need to sleep in the other room alone, I need to meditate, etc. Lock your room. Before you open the door to your room to talk to the narcissist, turn on your video recorder. Talk briefly in a business manner and go gray rock.
These are very practical tips. How effective were they?
If you do all of this, the narcissist will leave because you're essentially torturing her when she doesn't have the opportunity to manipulate you. You've taken away all her power because you have taken away her supply, i.e., her supply, that is, you being emotional and mad from her abuse. Soon, you'll be free. It is painful for the narc when she has no supply because she is like a vampire without blood or an alcoholic without a drink.
What advice would you give to others who might be in a similar situation?
First, educate yourself about narcissistic behavior. Understanding what you're dealing with is crucial. Second, work on not reacting emotionally to provocations. This takes away a lot of their power. Third, stop trying to explain or defend yourself. She does not listen or understand you, and that is what she wants you to do. React by trying to explain or defend yourself. Fourth, set firm boundaries and stick to them. Leave when abuse starts. And finally, consider implementing the two moves I mentioned: minimal contact, even in the same house, and recording interactions, as long as it's legal and safe to do so in your situation.
And that concludes our podcast for today, created by Elias Stasinos. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.